Hi, this is Alex from phpacademy.org with a video tutorial for the new Boston. In the last video we took a look at loading 3 different iframes, and we used the .load event handler to actually wait until each one had been loaded, and we looked at the example with images as well. Now in the last tutorial we had a slight problem where we wanted to make sure all the page contents had been loaded, so all of the DOM elements had been loaded, and then we wanted to perform a particular operation or an action, and this action was just to alert something out. So we're working with very basic feedback. Now what happens if I go ahead and have 3 different iframes on a page? I'm going to go ahead and just define these now. Or other elements. I mean, we're talking about a mix of elements. It could be an iframe, a image, even form elements. It depends on how long the page contents is. But we're going to go ahead and have 3 different iframes here. So we go ahead and make 3 of these, and obviously the sources are going to be different. We're going to have ebay.co.uk, and then we're going to go ahead and have phpacademy.org. So we've now got these 3 different iframes on the page. Now what I want to do is show an alert dialog when the content of these 3 iframes have been loaded. So once each and every one has been loaded, I want to then say page has been loaded or window has been loaded. And that's giving you a clue as to how we're going to do this, because we're going to use window as our selector, and then we're going to say load. So window.load, inside of this we define a function as we usually would. But this time, this is going to wait for the entire contents of the page with regards to the elements themselves to load. We're not talking about as soon as the DOM has loaded and is ready to go. So once each element and its contents, for example, well, let's just take an example. When we load a page, we have the DOM elements that have been initialized. However, they're not necessarily loaded. The contents of them have not necessarily loaded, and this is particularly useful for images, because images sometimes take a while to load. Like for example, if you wanted to have your user apply a particular or allow them to see a particular thing after an image had been loaded, this would be useful. So it depends. I mean, it's all very general and very condensed and quick, but sometimes when you're working in detail you need to know this. Okay, so after window has loaded, we want to go ahead and alert out loaded. So what this will do is it will check that each contents of these iframes have been loaded, and then it will say the message loaded. So let's go ahead over to our browser and take a look at this. I'm going to go ahead and refresh the page. Now you can see that all the pages are loading, and now we have this dialog. So you notice that each one of these iframes took the time to load before they actually were available and appeared. So we have all of the iframe contents loaded now. However, beforehand in the last tutorial we saw that we couldn't really assign the load to each one individually, because that then took each one and loaded each iframe was loaded, and then we alerted 3 times. So in the last tutorial we did iframe by generally selecting all iframes, and then when we went ahead and refreshed the page we got a message for each one that had loaded, as you can see. So that's the window.load. Usually with jQuery you're not going to go ahead, you're not really going to need to use this, and document ready and the function inside of that is enough to actually load the page and then start to perform actions. So it depends entirely, but feel free to go ahead to the jQuery documentation or Google search this, and there's lots of different information on each reasoning behind doing each one. However, we've looked at some classic raw examples of the differences between this and loading using this, and also loading using window.